Kolsch is a golden doodle from Fort Wayne, Indiana, who spent his days in Amish country eating poop and humping cows. Until one day, he became a Bro Soda Brew dog. But he's about to find out that being a brew dog is harder than it looks. So everyone give a warm Bro Soda welcome to Kolsch. Now, onto Wheel of Beer, rated PG-13.
What's going on, guys? Ed and Kolsch here from Bro Soda Brewing, and I think it's time for another episode of
Wheel of Beer,
the game where no means yes and yes means content. So the 30 or 40 people who have already seen my previous videos, you guys know the drill. But for those of you who are new watching, I'm going to load up all the beer styles from Brewfather onto a digital wheel and let that wheel decide my fate. Whatever it lands on, I'm going to brew. After that, I'm going to do the same with 10 food items to find out what ingredient I'm going to be brewing into it. I could be brewing an avocado amber, a broccoli bitter, maybe a ketchup Keller beer. Find out on Wheel of Beer.
Run from the mall, cause I don't really trust them. Life on my back, yeah, I really had to cut them. She like the vibe, but I do not trust her. Keep it on the low, she tryna blow my cover. Remember them mixtape covers and the tracks that was whack, too bad. I ain't know we had them bars like that, yeah, I got it like that, yeah, I got it like that.
So before we get started, I want to address the elephant in the room. Some of you may notice this little gash on my forehead here, so I figured I'd tell you what happened. So some friends and I were hiking up in the Appalachian Mountains, and we were attacked by a pack of wild coyotes. Needless to say, I single-handedly and very honorably fought them all off. So with some Elmer's glue and a couple band-aids, I was good to go, and we were back to our leisurely hike. Now, I want to incorporate something new into these videos. I figured it'd be beneficial for you, the viewer, if I were to include a ranking system to rank these wheel beers. This ranking will be, of course, completely based off my highly esteemed opinion, so you can be sure that it's going to be more powerful and more accurate than any BJCP judge. They have BJ in their fucking title. So from now on, I'm going to be ranking on a scale of 1 to 10 Bro Sodas. So first, here's a little retrospective. Turnip Lads, the Turnip Scottish Light gets 3 Bro Sodas out of 10. I don't like Scottish ales, and the turnips gave it a kind of earthy flavor, but didn't really stand out in the crowd. Its final fate was the Indiana septic system. Then there was the Belgian Binoculars, the Chocolate Belgian Pale Ale, which was decent. The chocolate wasn't strong enough though because I pussied it. Overall, I enjoyed it though, and its final fate was my liver, so this lands it with 6 Bro Sodas. Now onto the wheel. Alright, so here's my wheel with all the beer styles from Brewfather loaded up. So it's time to find out what I'll be brewing this week. X5. Brewfather's telling me this is a New Zealand Pilsner. So I love a good Pilsner. I haven't had a New Zealand one though, but it's literally just a Pilsner brewed with New Zealand hops. And lucky for me, I have some Motueka stored in the fridge right now, so I can save a little money with this one. So let's find out what the guys want me to brew into it. I'll go ahead and generate 10 random foods and add them to the wheel, and then we'll give it a spin. Mustard seed. Finally, an ingredient that is actually interesting. I mean, we've done turnips, which is weird, but it was pretty bland. Chocolate, which is, gets brewed into beers all the time, so no big deal. So I'm excited to finally get a weird one. But I think the shitty part is that New Zealand hops are typically kind of fruity and citrusy from my experience, so I'm not really sure that it's going to jive too well with the mustard flavor, but damn it, it's been decided, so damn it, I'm going to brew it. So I'm going to go head over to my GFs, and when I get back, it's time to brew. Okay, so I'm back from my GFs, and this time I didn't cop out and use one of their recipes. I crafted my own highly intricate and complex recipe. Basically a normal-ass Pilsner recipe. One might notice that I am using a lot of carapils though. For those that don't know, this is to increase the beer's head retention and shit. Usually only use a small percent of your grain bill. Doing some research on the turd seeds though, I found out they're like 30% oil, so I'm going ham with the carapils on this one to combat that. Will it work? Fuck if I know. Is there a better way to do that? Definitely. But I'm way too busy working on my summer bod to worry about that. If anyone knows a better way though, leave it in the comments because I'm sure I'll need to deal with this again at some point. So I did a little research to see if I could figure out how to incorporate mustard seeds into a beer, and found that this fucking guy did it before and it stays on. Absolute psycho. He didn't even have a wheel telling him to do it. But this post did help me figure out that I probably want about 20 grams for this. Also, before I get shit for it, I'm going to go ahead and address it. Lutra is not a lager yeast. It's an ale yeast that produces super light, pretty much pseudo lagers. So before anyone says, "Oh, it's not a true Pilsner," I'm fucking throwing mustard in it, dude. Like, let's just move on. Anyway, it's time to brew, so let's bro down. So I got my ingredients here, and it's time to fire up the burner. Finally got a nice day here, so I'm not bundled up for this one. Sun's out, guns out, am I right? Kolsch seems to think so. Once I got it up to my mash temp of 149 degrees Fahrenheit, it was time to mash in. Cue that B-roll. Once I killed the burner, it was time to let the pup check it out. Don't need him catching on fire and ruining the brew. While that matched, I was feeling a little frisky, so I went inside to scratch that sanitizing itch. You can see more than just a little heavy cleaning on my OnlyFans. Anyway, after messily chugging from a gallon of orange juice, it was time to milk my sack dry. I started the boil and measured out my ingredients. For the turd seed, I weighed out about 20-ish grams to throw in later in the boil. At the 60-minute mark, went 0.8 ounces of Motueka, and then at the 20-minute mark, a half ounce. The turd also went in at the 20-minute mark. I thought I filmed that, but instead of the video where it should have been, I found a picture of my hand, so I guess I fucked that up. But the boil finished and it was time for flame out. But I had a thought. I will never use the rest of those mustard seeds. So I went off the rails and threw the rest into the container after I killed the burner. About 19 grams. I wasn't pussyfooting with this one. These were kind of a bitch to clean out of the hop spider, but hopefully the juice will be worth the squeeze. I hit it with the chiller, and then it went into the fermenter. Then I took it in to take some readings and then dilute it. Then I pitched my fake lager yeast, and she was good to ferment. Since it was Lutra, I didn't really worry about controlling the temp. That shit could ferment out Satan's beehole. One beehole fermentation later, and the turd beer was done. Moved it to the keg, and then Kolsch and I purged it. A couple carbonation days later, though, and we have ourselves a fine mustard New Zealand Pilsner.
Now, when I think New Zealand, I think a bunch of wannabe Australians. But when nerds think New Zealand, it's obvious they think Lord of the Rings. New Zealand is the land of the Hobbit. Not only because it's the land where the Lord of the Rings films were filmed, but also because it's the only country that allows them to print hobbits on their legal tender. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure to introduce one turd to rule them all. A classic Pilsner, laced with New Zealand hops, and of course, a healthy dose of Hobbit mustard. Nothing tickles your balrogs better than shoving some turd helms deep down your throat.
Alright, so we got the turd beer here. One turd to rule them all, one turd coming out of behind them. You know how it goes. Fun fact, actually, speaking of turd, the thing that actually inspired this whole Wheel of Beer concept was Oscar Blues teamed up with French's Condiments to make a French's mustard beer. And so it's all kind of coming full circle. I think one day I'll probably try to brew that recipe. I know it's out there on the internet. But in the meantime, we got this turd. Let's give it a sniff. Wanna sniff it? As much as I want to say it smells like a turd, it really just smells like a normal Pilsner. I don't smell anything different about it. But I mean, let's go ahead and give it a taste. Cheers. Yeah, I'm sorry. ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing to see here. This is a normalized Pilsner. I don't taste anything different. I don't taste any like sort of spiciness or mustardiness from the seeds. This is just a normal Pilsner. This is kind of a disappointment too. Ugh. I will say though, I was concerned about the head because of the oils and the seeds, but it turned out fine, and I probably overdid it with the carapils. The head was a little too big, and it stayed for a little too long, so, I mean, at least we know that worked, right? But, in the end of the day, it's just a mediocre Pilsner and gets a score of 5 Bro Sodas. Hold on. Let me try something so I don't disrespect the turd. Look at that, all foam now. Let's give this a go. There we go. Now that's turd. Cheers to the turd. Oh. Me, Mike. Well. Alright, well, that's all the time I got for tonight. Thanks for watching another episode.
Wheel of Beer.
Cheers.
You can't do this. Well, Batman, meet Kolsch, a golden doodle from Fort Wayne, Indiana, who spent his days in Amish country eating poop and humping cows until one day he became a Bro Soda Brew dog. Yes, but he's about to find out that being a brew dog is harder than it looks.
You can't do this, Joker.
So everyone, give a warm Bro Soda welcome.
Stop it, Joker.
To Kolsch.
No!
Now back to the Wheel of Beer, rated PG-13.
I'm gonna get you, Joker. You're not gonna get away with this.
Oh yes I will, Batman. Oh yes I will.